Roger Wicker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for your testimony and your service. Let me just say how reassuring it is to hear the chairman and the ranking Democrat on this committee stress our strong support for NATO, for the Article 5 commitment of all the members, and it's good to see that done on a bipartisan basis. I will not ask another question about Turkey, except to say that I'm glad that the chairman brought it up early. I will echo that the acquisition by a NATO ally of the S-400 is not the action that one would expect from an ally. And it calls a lot of things into question, and I'm glad to hear the chairman announce a decision to withhold training of Turkish pilots at Luke Air Force Base. I don't know how that'll turn out, but it is troubling, and it calls into question a lot of things that we've assumed from our longtime ally in Turkey. Let me ask General Wolters about sea power. The U.S. has 4 destroyers based in Rota. They perform ballistic missile defense missions, carry out strikes into Syria, boost NATO's presence in the Black Sea, and monitor Russia naval activities in the eastern Mediterranean. Some are proposing adding 2 destroyers at Rota. I asked General Scaparrotti about this a few weeks ago when he was here, and he supported the idea of 2 additional destroyers at Rota. Do you agree with General Scaparrotti's assessment about stationing additional destroyers in Rota?
Senator, I do.
Are we going to need more? Are we going to need a larger or smaller fleet in EUCOM going forward?
Senator, it's my belief that we'll need a fleet that possesses the capability to cover more time and cover more distance. I suspect that's going to require 2 additional destroyers per the conversation I've had with General Scaparrotti in my current position as the Air Force's commander in Europe.
Thank you very much. Now let me move then to our allies in Poland. As you know, they've actually requested that the United States establish a permanent base in Poland. So I want to ask you what you think about that. There are at least 2 schools of thought. One would be potential stationing of a permanent U.S. Base in Poland. Another would be a permanent rotational basis there. What is your initial assessment, and what are the factors that we need to consider in making that decision here at the congressional level?
Senator, I think the first factor has to be mission. As you're very familiar with, Poland is currently hosting a rotational brigade combat team, a rotational combat aviation brigade, and a small headquarters-like entity. The offers that are on the table in negotiation between the Minister of Defense and our Secretary of Defense office with respect to what we could bring into the country for the price of approximately 2 billion euros is an organization that could look like an aviation jet, an organization that could look like an aerial port, an organization that could look like remotely piloted aircraft mission control elements, or an organization that could look like a headquarters-like staff. I believe because of the propensity that Poland has displayed in hosting the brigade combat teams and the combat aviation brigades on a rotational basis would put us down the path that we would be very comfortable with the offer that is on the table to go ahead and select the rotational brand just because of the demonstrated capability that we've seen up to this point for the nation of Poland to host rotational assets from the United States.
Thank you. And one other thing, General Wolters. You and I discussed this when you came by the office. The statute, as it currently exists, calls for a return to sequestration. I don't know if our listeners and viewers out there in the general public understand that, but unless the statute is changed, we go back to sequestration. not only in DOD, but the State Department, as Senator Reed pointed that out. Is disaster a strong enough word to describe what that would mean if we do not take action and actually change the law to prevent this?
Senator, sequestration would dramatically impair our readiness.
And with regard to Senator Reed's question about this, does that apply with regard not only to the DOD budget, but to the State Department budget, which he asked you about?
Senator, I believe that it does because it's a whole-of-nation, whole-of-government approach, and all those entities use the capabilities of their sister departments, so it would impact our capability to properly deter on continent.
Thank you, sir.
Thank